Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Not that I didn't appreciate your awesome sing out at the end of the first segment. And could you have chosen, a more random song, the Titanic song? But it was lovely. And not that I didn't appreciate that, but during the break, I want to give a shout out to Caitlin, who works here at the RFC and Sweet Radio studios. Caitlin came in and corrected the problem that was keeping us from
awesome.
being able to guess. So Johnny, if you're watching, no need for you to come back in. Caitlin's got it covered. She'll take your job from here on out.
That's right.
She's got it working. So welcome back. By the way,
he's been relegated to mail boy.
It's as long as he gets to sample some of the barley wines and stouts, I think he'll be all right with it. Welcome back to show number 143. This is Smoking and Toasting. We're all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, and we are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814
Man, that bacon's good.
Washington Ave in Houston, in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth, and by BB Italia on Memorial in Houston, a new place that is, I understand, pretty awesome. We haven't been there yet, but we will get there soon. Talking about the best light craft beers today on the show, and we're going to be sampling one in a few moments. And I just wanted to mention, Ian, we don't always talk about the guests that we have coming up on the show, but I'm really excited about this one. We have had some people suggest that we should do a wine show. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons...
I think you were plenty whiny.
Well,
you were whiny enough, sir. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Wine, and you like a little cheese with that wine. One of the reasons we haven't done it is because I really, about the sum total of my knowledge in wine is I know the ones that I've had that I liked. That's about it. Like I really don't feel like I can speak that authoritatively about it. And so I thought, well, let's get somebody on who can. I tried getting my buddy Warren Christensen, who works with Q Prime Artist Management, who's one of the most knowledgeable wine guys I know. Tried to get him on when we were out in California.
Right, I remember you talking about that.
Just couldn't schedule it. Couldn't schedule it. But I'm proud to announce that coming up next month, Mark Burrell is going to join us on the show. And Mark may be one of the smartest wine guys in Houston. And that's saying a lot because there's a lot of restaurants, a lot of sommeliers here. He is the owner of the Raven Grill here in Houston,
nice.
Which is a great restaurant, great food, and he's just super knowledgeable about wines. So I've asked him to pick some and bring them in and, show us what wine's supposed to be about, and we have somebody we can actually ask some semi-intelligent questions about wine. So that's going to be coming up in about 3 or 4 weeks. Once we get back from the 4th of July holiday.
That's pretty
He'll
awesome.
be joining us. So, yeah, I'm so excited about that. But on today's show, talking a little bit about the best light beers, and not only are there... there's a couple of articles that I'm going to go to show some examples of some of the best light craft beers. I'm not going to start with it, but maybe in the next segment we'll get to this. One of them's from Popular Mechanics. Because when I want to know about beer...
That's right.
My dad subscribed to Popular Mechanics when I was a kid. I would pick him up and I would look at him and go... This is the most boring magazine I've ever seen in my life. But apparently they've hipped it up because they're talking about beers. They're talking about craft beer. So maybe I should.
It seems
I should
like
think about subscribing.
It seems like the underlying idea of Popular Mechanics and beer would be a bad mix.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I'm gonna go work on the motorcycle and
this motorcycle has a Corvette engine in it.
Have some craft
some beer
while I'm at it. Yeah. So we've talked about the fact that there's a lot of the craft breweries are now really working to find something that they can release that is lower ABV, lower calories, and better for, there was a whole movement towards sessionable craft beers, particularly sessionable IPAs a year or two ago, but now it's taken on a whole nother level as they're coming out with some really interesting things. And so looking at some of the lists that I've found of these on the internets, I've got some examples for you, and you guys who are listening to the show can go out and search these out, and we'll tell you what we know. The brand, the Kona Kanaha? It's the craft beer that always has the Hawaiian motif on it. Okay, so they've got the Kona Kanaha Blonde Ale. It's 4.2% ABV and 99 calories. They rank it 5th in flavor. I won't go into the whole ranking thing. And third, tied for third in refreshment. The brewery is founded on the Big Island of Hawaii. They use surfers and waterfalls on the label. It'll be easy to find in your
They have a coffee
store.
ale that sells really well.
Yep. They said it has an effervescence, tropical fruit on the nose, but not so much in the taste. Very fizzy and crisp, but very, very refreshing because it's so effervescent, is what they say about it in this article. Then there's the Boulevard. The Boulevard of Great Brewery, Easy Sport Ale. It's 4.1%
Haven't
ABV.
seen that one.
99 calories. They say it's the drinking man's alternative to Gatorade. That's how they describe it in the article. It's brewed with electrolytes, sea salt, potassium, and magnesium, and has more electrolytes and tangerine peel added at the end.
Should I put that in my water bottles when I'm
fermentation.
biking?
Yeah. Think
It's got
about it.
It's
That
got
could totally work.
electrolytes.
Yeah. They say it has a lot of citrus. Doesn't have a strong taste. Not, it seems like a beer that could have appeal, is what they said. Appeal.
Appeal.
Then, and we have talked about this beer, but we haven't sampled it unless you've sampled it at a time when I wasn't along. But Dogfish Head now has the Slightly Mighty Low-Cal IPA.
Haven't tried that.
I'm really anxious to try this. It's 4% ABV, 95 calories, and the reviews that it got from the little reviewing panel that they put together for this article said it's really good. Not too watery, it says, but also feels like you could pound a few of these while getting sunburned and be okay.
It's weird to think that you could pound a few of anything by Dogfish Head.
I know.
And I love their beers.
Absolutely. But yeah, you're usually thinking the 60 and the 90 and the 120, and you're not thinking of pounding. Says here that it's not too watery, not a lot of body, but hops are what keep it from being a Miller Lite-ish beer. So you've got maybe the same sort of body as one of the more mainstream beers, but the hops give it a lot more flavor. So very interesting. One reviewer said, "I'd recommend this to someone who only drinks Keystone to get them to drink better beer." So, I'd recommend a whole lot of things to someone who only drinks Keystone.
Are you seeing Keystone is not like one of the craftier beers?
I'm saying there's a difference between Keystone and Stone. Yeah, and I think there's a whole lawsuit to prove that. Harpoon, one of my favorite breweries in the country, out of Boston, Massachusetts. They have a beer called Rec League. REC period, like abbreviation for recreational league.
Some of these are just
Rec
brand
league.
new, right?
In fact, most of these are brand new that we're talking about. Yep. It is 3.8% ABV.
Wow, that's really low.
And 120 calories. They've actually got, I think, a picture of a soccer ball.
That's approaching near beer.
Harpoon IPA, of course, was a staple in the early days of the craft beer movement. Harpoon IPA is what got me into craft beer. That's what pulled me in.
That was the one.
Absolutely. But it's not, maybe Harpoon not as well known as it used to be, but they say that could be changing because the raves for Rec League are coming in really loud and strong. It is 120 calories, the lowest ABV of anyone's in this particular article, and it is, they say the differential adds the little pale ale to have a little more color and body than the other lighter beers. Good aroma for a light beer, kind of juicy, tastes like a low-cal IPA, which is the point, right?
So it's got to be an interesting balance because, anything you add to a beer that's going to add more and more flavor is going to add calorie.
Now, it said it'd be a good IPA for people who like to taste some hops in their IPA but don't want a hop bomb.
Right.
So that makes sense because you're not going to really get a hop bomb in a lower calorie IPA. And finally, and we've talked a lot about this beer on this show, and we've said, I've called it the Bud Light killer. Lagunitas Daytime IPA.
Awesome beer.
It's just amazing. 4% ABV, 98 calories. It ranked first in flavor and first in refreshment on the panel that they assembled for this article. They were very clear, it says, in their preference for this Lagunitas Dry Hoppy IPA, naming it the most refreshing and best tasting of all the beers. Pretty crisp taste throughout. It's very light, but you can still taste that happiness. A detractor noted it had minimal hops, but they appear to be on the finish. That is true. Other tasters noted citrus and banana-like flavors. Think it'd be really good for grilling and outdoor parties, and daytime may be, they said, the most drinkable of all of the ones that were in that sample. So that's the first article. I've got some more from the boys at Popular Mechanics we'll share later on. But I thought this would be a perfect time, Ian, for you to maybe pop the top on this bad boy, because there's a new entry into the lower ABV, low-cal beers, and it's from Spindletap. Wow, that sounded good. Spindletap right here in Houston. And this is something that, like I said, I wasn't sure this could even exist. This is a low-cal, low ABV hazy IPA. Did you just pour beer on your knee?
Yep, I just poured beer on my knee.
All right. I'm going to pass this one over to Adam real quick while you're pouring.
Apparently, I didn't tilt the glass enough, and it did that thing where it rolls right down to the end of the
right down
vessel.
to the end of the.
Now it's going into my sock.
Yeah, well, it's good to have your sock be beer smelling. There's certainly worse things your sock could smell.
I'm sure I'll survive it.
Actually, there's only 3 of us today. So
only 3 of us today.
So this is, and you can see it on.
This smells awesome.
You can see it on Mr. Twirlygig. It is a Spindletap 5% tint. It's 5% alcohol by volume. There's not a whole lot of information on the can, but we've had the boys from Spindletap on the show before, and they brought some really good beer. They're from right here in our hometown of Houston, and so I thought this would be a great place to start.
They're one of the very few that make an ESB as well.
That's right. That ESB
and
is the Honey Hole ESB.
Yeah, the Honey Hole ESB.
It's really good. Delicious. So starting out, this smells like a glass of orange juice.
Yeah, it's very, very citrusy.
It's got
sweet smelling.
So it's got that aroma that, like the Parish Ghost in the Machine and some of the other very orange juice-ish IPA, hazy IPAs have got.
It's funny you say all that, because the predominant flavor in here, wait for it, grapefruit.
You're so right. It is grapefruit.
And in a great way. Like in a great dry way. It's not bitter like grapefruit, but there's a little snap to it. This is delicious.
Ian, this is immediately jumping into my top 3.
Yeah, this is delicious here. This is a well-made beer here.
This is almost as good as juicy IPAs that I've had, and juicy right now I'm kind of on a juicy IPA kick anyway, and this is almost as good as ones I've had that are way more calories.
This is the full package. First off, the carbonation in here is right. It's a little higher carbonated, but it's not a lot. The mouthfeel in this is fantastic. It's got a nice
it is nice, perfectly balanced
big, mouthfeel to it. The flavor in here hits your tongue immediately with that crisp. There's a tiny little bit of malt, but I mean a crisp kind of
it's just
roundness
citrus
to it, and then citrus just follows the entire rest of the way, and it finishes without a bitter hop.
Right, it doesn't have any of that bitter on the finish at all.
Although the hops are present, it doesn't finish with that bitter hop.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons that I like juicy IPAs to begin with, is because you can get a lot of hops without having that really pine coney finish. I
really like this.
The citrus seems to be. I do too. This is easily a new favorite for me.
And I just want to say, I take of it, the more I like.
I just want to say, if you live in Texas, somewhere where Spindletap's beers are available, please go out and buy this, because I want them to sell so much that they keep making it. I don't want this beer to go away.
This is really good. Like, I mean,
it's just fantastic. I'm blown away actually by it.
I actually, in general, I would buy this for the fact that it's Spindletap, and I like their beers in general. But I generally avoid buying new IPAs because they all just taste bitter, hoppy to me.
This is why you have me as a friend, because
we've had a rash of a few of them. Like you talked about that.
The Ghost in the Machine.
Well, yeah, Ghost in the Machine is kind of an exceptional beer.
Yeah.
And there's a few that I really like, but this right here, especially on the lighter side, this is a very easy to drink, very approachable IPA that doesn't leave you with that IPA bitterness that just lingers. This actually finishes with a little bit of that grapefruit or lemon zest kind of taste in your mouth. It's just great.
This beer makes me happy.
This is summer beer at its best right here.
It makes me happy. Yes, I love it. I love it. I will be stocking up on this. Were you talking about Smoking and Toasting influences sales? Yeah, it's going to influence sales today.
Yeah, and you know what? Since it's an IPA, you can't save it. You've got to drink it. So you got to stock up on it, and then you got to drink it all.
I've made that mistake before, and sometimes
anybody out there could just hear those air quotes, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm sure.
Like, if you're not watching us, I'm sure you can hear the air quotes.
Mistake. Yeah, well, that's just exceptional.
That's
In
an
fact,
absolute joy right
it's
there.
almost now. I use it for our first beer because the next couple that we taste here on the show today will be going up a little in ABV. But wow, that's going to be a hard beer to top.
That's a
Yeah,
damn good
Yeah.
beer. And you know, it's so interesting because look how pale it is too. Like,
well, it
look
is.
at that.
It is very orange juice-ish looking, except
it's
paler,
so
right?
Pale. It looks like, I said grapefruit earlier. Look at think grapefruit juice right there. It's so
You were so right
without
about the
the
grapefruit.
pink. You know, I mean, it's
So right about the grapefruit. Wow. Well, and they have grapefruits that the juice is that color.
yeah.
Not all of them are the ruby red type.
Right. This is so good.
But it's such a different taste from like the Shiner Ruby Red, for example, which I
Right,
thought of when
right.
I said Ruby Red. That's got a grapefruit flavor that's completely different from what this is.
Right, but that's got a little bit of that grapefruit bitterness to it. That,
Right. And I like
this
that beer.
doesn't. Yeah, I do too.
I like that beer,
but this isn't like that. This is when I say grapefruit, I don't mean it's the predominant flavor. It is.
Right, it's
an underlying really nice thing about it.
You know what I like about this? Everything.
I've already poured a second. And I'm almost done.
I'm going to have to go back at this. Wow, a real winner here.
Yeah,
ladies and
absolutely.
gentlemen. 5% tint.
Good
IPA.
job, Spindletap, on
Yeah, Spindletap. I'm proud of them. I always get proud when breweries from my area
Yeah.
develop something really awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, not just like, hey, that's a solid beer, that's great. But when you go, wow, I want people to be buying this and shipping it back to their home states because it's
I like the
yeah.
the car on there
With
as
the
well.
with the tint on the windows, yeah.
Yes, and it says
Very nice.
where the car tag would be. It says Citra.
Citra. I like it. All right, so we will take a break and come back. We have more to discuss in terms of light beers. We have another list from Popular Mechanics. Plus, President Trump has clamped down on travel to Cuba. So you had a window. If you didn't take it, you may not be able to. It's going to get harder and harder to travel from the U.S. to Cuba. And there's just a number of other things going on that we haven't had a chance to talk about, having had guests for the past couple of weeks. I will also tell you about the FDA has extended the commenting period for cigar testing. Now, that may sound like a very dry and boring thing, but it's important, so I'll tell you why when we come back. And we're going to taste a little black raspberry, oak-aged sour ale with black raspberries from Westbrook Brewing,
That sounds
which is
fun.
a hard thing to say, but I have a feeling it's going to be an easy thing to drink. So we'll be right back, and our music is back. Yay! Thank you, Caitlin and Adam. You can sing at the end of the show if you want. Stay tuned to the very end.
But that's when you turn it
for
off.
Ian to sing.